Hey guys, in this video I want to go ahead and talk about solving quadratics, okay? En este video vamos a hablar sobre resolviendo los cuadráticos, and we're going to do use something called the zero product property. Vamos a usar una propiedad de productos, el producto de cero. Now, all the zero product property says that if you're multiplying two factors, okay, if you're multiplying two things, two products, that means one of the factors has to be a zero, okay? Entonces, esto quiere decir que si estamos multiplicando a dos números, dos elementos, dos factores, entonces, para que sea cero, uno de ellos tiene que ser cero. And basically, that's pretty simple. Now, the purpose of using the zero product property is because it applies to quadratics and graphing. So if you notice here, let's go ahead and just use this example here. When it says solve, I have to solve this quadratic. Voy a resolver este cuadrático. Okay. So I'm going to take this quadratic. I'm going to set it equal to 0. Lo voy a resolver a 0. And then I'm going to factor. So I factor this, que lo factoricé. Entonces agarré esto y esto. Okay. Now the zero product property is this part here. So what you do is you take each individual factor, set it equal to 0. Same thing with this guy over here. Now that ends up, positive 2, you bring it across, becomes a negative 2. Negative 3, you bring it across, becomes a positive 3. These are important because these are the solutions, but also these are what we call the x-intercepts. Okay? And your professor might have different names for it. So we have different names for them as well. Just so you guys know, that you can call them zeros. You can call them x-intercepts. And the other word that your professor might use is roots. They call them the roots, okay? They all mean the same thing. Entonces, para resolver estos ceros de la propiedad, entonces vamos a resolverlo, okay? Vamos a igualarlo a 0, vamos a factorizarlo. Y esta es la propiedad aquí. Cuando se factoriza, lo vamos a igualar a 0 y lo vamos a resolver. Okay. Y lo importante de esto, porque esto nos va a ayudar en la gráfica de los cuadráticos, x es igual a negativo 2 está ahí, x es igual a positivo 3 está ahí. Okay. So let's go ahead and see if we can do some of these examples. A ver si podemos hacer unos cuantos. So what do I do with this one? All of these are solved. Okay, solve the quadratic, solve the quadratic. So we're going to set it equal to 0. Vamos a igualar a 0. I'm going to factor, lo voy a factorizar. Okay, so it means x plus 4, and then that's going to give me x plus 3. Okay, set it equal to 0. Now that they're factored individually, we're going to set them equal to 0. X plus 4 equals 0, and the other one is x plus 3 equals 0. So now I got to solve this guy. And I'll do it the long way this time, but eventually you can see it right away. Minus 4, positivo 4. Se convierte en negativo, so then we have x is equal to negative 4. And then same thing over here, the positive 3 comes across, becomes a negative 3. And 0 minus 3 is negative 3. So these are your solutions. Estas son las soluciones del cuadrático. Okay? And that's all you have to do. That's all you got to do. What about this one here? Okay, I'll go ahead and do it the x factor. Just a little bit of review of how we do that. So we want to factor this guy, so we're going to go ahead and do 2x times x. What are the factors of negative 3? Well, remember, I'm trying to add up to negative 5 as well. So you're going to put the 3 here and the 1 there. But remember, there's a negative here, so one of these has to be negative. So if I make the negative on the 3, okay, this becomes, I'm going to cross multiply 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x. Okay, and then x times 1, that's going to give me a positive 1x. Okay, entonces vamos a factorizarlo. Entonces, como pueden ver, 2x por x, pero 1 por negativo 3. Uno de estos tiene que ser negativo porque aquí tengo el negativo 3. Entonces, acuérdense que quiero que se sume a menos 5x. So, negative 6x plus 1x is going to give me negative 5x. 2x por menos 3, x por 1. And that's what I wanted. So that means my factors are going to be 2x plus 1, x minus 3. Now that we have that factor, we're going to set it equal to 0. Okay, now each individual factor, you're going to set them equal to 0. That one, and then you have the other one, x minus 3. Okay, now you already saw this one's pretty easy. Este va a ser fácil. ¿Cuál número menos 3 me da 0? Bueno, se convierte en positivo, right? Because 3 minus 3 gives you 0. So if you notice, it just becomes the opposite. No real trick to that. What about this guy? Well, that might take me a little bit longer, but much the same way. I'll do it the long way though. Positivo 1 se convierte en negativo. So now we have 2x is equal to negative 1. What do you do now? You divide by 2. Dividimos por 2. X es igual a negativo 1,5. So now you have the two solutions right there. And that's it, guys. That's it. Let's go ahead and do some that are getting a little bit more complex. Okay. What about this one? We want to solve it. So what are we going to do? We're going to factor it. But remember the first rule in factoring. Is there a common factor? ¿Hay un número en común que puedo factorizar? Sí. I can factor out a 2. They each have a 2. And they each have an x. X. So before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and factor out a 2x. I'm going to be left with x squared plus 4x plus 3. You see that? Now I'm going to factor this. Ahora voy a factorizar este. So I'm going to get 2x. And you're going to have x plus 3, x plus 1. Okay. Now that I factored that, I'm going to go ahead and set each of them equal to 0. And whatever has an x, okay? Because the 2x, then I'm going to set that equal to 0. And then I'm going to get the x plus 3, x más 3 igual a 0, y también x más 1 igual a 0. So I have 3 solutions for this one, 3 soluciones por este. Okay, so este se divide por 2. 0 dividido entre 2 me va a dar 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. This one, x is going to be equal to negative 3. And this one, x is going to be equal to negative 1. And those are your 3 solutions. Esas son las 3 soluciones. Now, let's go ahead and what about this one? If you notice this one carefully, you can't factor. Este no se puede factorizar. So what do you do when you can't factor? You have two options. 1, complete the square, or 2, quadratic formula. Because we've talked about completing the square, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Vamos a completar el cuadrado para resolver este, okay? So let's go ahead and set it equal to 0. Okay, remember, I can't factor this, so I have to make it so that I can factor it. So, esto no lo puedo factorizar, entonces lo tengo que hacer para que se pueda factorizar. Entonces, x cuadrado más 2x. Tengo que mover el 5 fuera, ok. Pero lo que voy a hacer lo voy a mover al otro lado, porque lo voy a resolver de todos modos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the positive 5 to the other side, because I'm going to solve it either way. So, give myself some space. Take this guy to the other side. Okay, that becomes a negative 5. Okay, so what do you do now? Well, you're going to add. You're going to take half of 2 as 1, and you're going to square it. But remember, whatever you add on one side, you add on the other side. Lo que se agrega al un lado, se tiene que agregar al otro lado. So now this, you can factor it. Okay, so this is going to become, well, I think I'll do this one the long way, okay? So it will become x squared minus 2x plus 1. Over here becomes negative 5 plus 1. Lo voy a hacer de forma larga. So now this guy I can factor. Esto ahora se puede factorizar. ¿En qué? Well, if you do the factoring right, it's going to be x. Whoops, that should be a plus. X plus 1 times another x plus 1. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Okay? So what does that mean? I have 2 of them, right? Tengo dos. So I can go ahead and write 2 of them. X plus 1 squared. Okay? And then I have negative 4 over here. Now I can go ahead and solve it. Well, how do I solve this? ¿Cómo resuelvo esto? Remember, how do I get rid of a square? You're going to take the square root, la raíz cuadrada de los dos lados. Okay? So now, what do you do here? Okay, you're going to end up with x plus 1, because that simplifies out. Plus or minus. Okay, can we take the square root of a negative? The answer is no. Okay, so because this is algebra 1, we're going to stop right here. And this is called no real solution. Quiere decir que no, la solución no es real, es imaginaria. En álgebra 2 se habla de eso. Now, what does that mean? Well, remember we talked about the parabola. ¿Se acuerdan de la parábola que hablamos? ¿Qué quiere decir esto? Bueno, quiere decir que la parábola no cruza el axis aquí abajo. So what this means, guys, is the parabola doesn't intersect the x-axis here. That's why the roots are imaginary. Okay, if they were real, it would intersect here. So we solved it, and that's all we do. Okay, eso es todo lo que se hace. Let's go ahead and do another one. Okay, what about this one here? Same thing. Set it equal to 0. We can't factor, so we're going to complete the square. Vamos a completar el cuadrado. We're going to have x squared minus 4x equals, we're going to go ahead and take this positive 1 to the right, becomes a negative 1. And let's go ahead and add half of negative 4, la mitad de negativo 4 is negativo 2 al cuadrado. Remember, whatever you add on one side, you have to add on the other side, negative 2 squared. Great. So now this is already factorable, okay? Just like we did with the previous one, but I'm going to go straight into the factor. So we're going to get x, and then minus 2, we're going to have minus 2 there, squared. And then we're going to have negative 1 plus 4. Negative 1, negative 2 squared is 4. Okay. Now you're saying, well, how did it go from here to here? I'll go ahead and do that just to give you a better idea of what we're doing here. X squared minus 4x plus 4. That's what this is, right? This is over here. So if I factor this, you're going to have x times x. Factors of 4 are going to be negative 2 times negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 give you that positive 4. And at the same time, negative 2 and negative 2 will add up to that negative 4x. Because if you cross multiply here, x times negative 2 is negative 2x. X times negative 2 is another negative 2x. That's negative 4x, right? So my factors end up being x minus 2, x minus 2, right? So because they're both the same, you can write x minus 2 quantity squared. But you see, it's already there. I don't need to do all of this. So I'm going to go straight to there, okay? Entonces voy a venir de aquí a acá. So let's go ahead. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. So then I have x minus 2. We have it squared. So now what do? Ahora qué hago? Well, you're going to square root it. Voy a hacer la raíz cuadrada, los dos lados. Okay. Now remember, when you take the square root cancels with the square. Okay, but when you take the square root, remember there's two solutions. The square root, it's plus or minus. Okay, there's two solutions to that. And the reason is because if you think about it, what's negative 2 squared? 4. Okay, what's positive 2 squared? 4. So you see there's two solutions for the same outcome. You see you have a negative and a positive, but you still get the same outcome. That's the reason we use a positive and a negative for the square root. Okay. So now the last thing you got to do is take this negative 2 across. Ahora lo que tenemos que hacer es el menos 2 al otro lado. Okay, se acuérdense cuando tienen la raíz cuadrada son dos soluciones. ¿Por qué? Por este ejemplo aquí. Porque tengo dos soluciones para la misma respuesta. So we have x equals 2 plus or minus radical 3. And that's your solution. Entonces, esta es la solución. All right, guys? And that's the reason why we couldn't factor it, because this becomes an irrational decimal. All right? So let's go ahead and do the next one. Vamos a hacer el siguiente. Okay? Same thing. I can't factor it. No lo puedo factorizar. We're going to set it equal to 0. We're going to have x squared minus 8x. We're going to plus something, give myself some room. The plus 2 becomes a negative 2 on the other side. Entonces ahora menos 8, negative 8. Half of negative 8 is negative 4 squared. Make sure you add same thing on both sides. Then this guy becomes x minus 4 squared. This guy becomes negative 2 plus, be careful, 16. Okay, negativo 2 más 16 es 14. Now we have x minus 2 here. It's still squared. ¿Cómo me deshago del cuadrado? La raíz cuadrada. So we take the square root. The square root and the square simplify out. You're going to be left with x minus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 14. And then all I got to do is take the negative 2 across. So x is equal to a positive 2 plus or minus radical 14. And that's my solution. Esa es mi solución. Let's do one more. Vamos a hacer una más. Okay. X squared plus 10x minus 3. We can't factor. No lo podemos factorizar. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and give myself some room. Bring the negative 3 over. Negativo 3 se viene al otro lado. Se convierte en positivo. So positive 3. Remember, half of the middle, la mitad de 10 is 5. Half of 10 is 5. We're going to square it. Whatever you add on one side, you add on the other side. Positive 5 squared. So now this guy can be factored. So we're going to be getting x plus 5 quantity squared. And then this is going to give me 3 plus, be careful, it's not 10, it is 25. Okay, cuidado, no es 10, es 25. Okay, so 3 plus 25 is 28, me da 28. So now we still have x plus 5 squared. So how do we get rid of the square? We square root. Okay, la raíz cuadrada a los dos lados. Okay, the square root and the square simplify each other out. Don't forget, square root, you take plus or minus. Okay. And then just bring the 5 across. Ahora mandamos el menos 5, el positivo 5 al otro lado, se convierte en negativo. Okay, square root of 28. Now I will say one thing though, sometimes your professors, they'll have you simplify this out. Can we simplify the square root of 28? ¿Podemos simplificar la raíz de 28? Sí, la raíz de 28 es igual si escribo la raíz de 4 por 7. 4 times 7 is 28. Why 4? Why not another number? Well, because I know the square root of 4. Yo sé la raíz cuadrada del 4 es 2. Entonces, este se simplifica a esto. Entonces, tu profesor te va a pedir que le escribas acá menos 5 más o menos 2 raíz de 7. They might have you write it like that. Alright guys, so hopefully that helps out. You understood how to solve quadratics using completing the square. Thank you.